Good evening, everyone. On the occasion of the World Heritage Day 2026, the Indian Institute of Heritage is pleased to organize the Heritage Dialogues by the Indian Institute of Heritage, an online lecture series celebrating India's rich cultural legacy through conversations with distinguished scholars and experts. At the outset, I would like to introduce the Indian Institute of Heritage. Formerly known as the Indian Institute of Heritage, it is a premier institute under the Ministry of Culture, Government of India, dedicated to higher education and research in art history, conservation, museology, archaeology, paleography, epigraphy, and numismatics. Established in 1989, the Institute has played a pioneering role in training professionals and advancing scholarship in the fields of cultural heritage through interdisciplinary research, teaching, and academic outreach. Among the outreach programs that the Institute offers is this online lecture series, for which I would like to express a sincere gratitude to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi, for his vision, support, and guidance that has resulted in this online lecture series. I would also like to thank all our esteemed faculty members, colleagues, and students, and all the participants joining us today from different institutions and regions. The lecture that we are gathered today is being organized by the Department of Paleography, Epigraphy, and Numismatics. This department offers the first ever master's degree program in these specialized disciplines, and its importance lies in the hundreds of inscriptions, manuscripts, and coins that have been preserved in museums, archives, and archaeological sites across India and beyond that are still waiting to be read, and, and people that are waiting to be trained by scholars. The department offers specialized trainings in ancient Indian scripts, inscriptions, and numismatics, along with epigraphic traditions of South and Southeast Asia. The department regularly organizes lectures, workshops, and academic interactions with leading experts to prepare the next generation of researchers in these fields. And we're delighted to begin the lecture series with the first lecture, Introduction to Scripts and Inscriptions of India, by Dr. T.S. Ravi Shankar Sir, who is a very, very well known figure, and all of us know him. And he's also a very special guest at the Department of Paleography, Epigraphy, and Numismatics. Sir is it's an absolute privilege to be introducing him. He is a distinguished speaker. He has been the former director of the Epigraphy Branch, Archaeological Survey of India. He has a master's in Sanskrit and Ancient History and Archaeology. He has a PhD from the University of Mysore and has served the Epigraphy Branch of the Archaeological Survey of India for more than 35 years. An eminent epigraphist in numismatics, he has made significant contributions to the study and decipherment of Sanskrit inscriptions and early Indian coins. He has also been closely associated with teaching and training students of archaeology for over 2 decades and has conducted several workshops on paleography, epigraphy, and numismatics across the country. It is a great honor to have you with us, sir, today, and I think I would like to hand over the stage to you.
Thank you, Mehak. Good evening to all the viewers. My heartiest greeting to all viewers on this World Heritage Day. And my deepest respects to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Sachidanand Joshi ji, Madam Professor Emeritus Anupam Madam, and many faculties who are connected with this workshop, this talk on this World Heritage Day. So I have chosen a very vast, wide subject today, and I will be focusing mainly on the scripts and the languages. I practically will be taking you a long journey in terms of space and time from 3rd century BC to 12th century Common Era. And before that, I congratulate the Pen Department, Paleography, Epigraphy, and Numismatics for this wonderful initiative. You know, many always, we go with the heritage, architectural heritage, cultural heritage. Many we talk about, very less and do about the epigraphical heritage. Our vast subcontinent is known through and throughout the Indian subcontinent, throughout the length and breadth and country. So many thousands of inscriptions are found, still many are writing. So, written in various scripts for a period of from 3rd century, beginning from 3rd century BC to 12th century Common Era. So, on this great day occasion, I wish to dedicate this talk today to G.H. Ojha and then Rao Bahadur Venkaya, two great pioneers in the field of epigraphy. One, see the great master, even now, we nobody can miss to see this Bharatiya Prachina Lipimala. It was, it is, and it will be there in future also. The greatest, and days to come, we have to take up, review the great works done by our Indian epigraphists, and their contribution is immense. And
Um,
similarly, Professor
Dr. Ravi Shankar, I
yeah,
would just like to, I should not interrupt, but since this is the first ever lecture by such an esteemed scholar in the Indian Institute of Heritage, I just want to welcome you so much. And Mehak Sejwal, the assistant professor, I do not know if Mehak, did you introduce yourself? You spoke so well. But she is a very esteemed faculty too, our assistant professor in the Department of Paleography, Epigraphy, Numismatics. And we have a small faculty, she, and I am the professor and head of the department, and also professor emeritus of the history of our department. And she has already said that this great idea was a brainchild of our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi, who I'm missing very much today uh, on this great occasion. But I would like to mention that he is currently on a flight, actually, just now. We had a very great lecture in the morning, which we celebrated, but he's traveling at the moment, so he could not join in. I want to also, along with Mehek, on behalf of the IIH, welcome you all, give you all good wishes for this very important day, and thank Dr. Ravi Shankar. After this, I will not interrupt him because he is
no,
one of the best
okay.
known for paleography and all the lost scripts, which I hope all our students should know. As he has said, there are thousands of inscriptions all over India, thousands, with the most fascinating subjects, even in Southeast Asia. And our young students do not know the scripts and the languages. So, Dr. Ravi Shankar, thank you so much. I
Thank you,
welcome
madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you.
and bless you, Mehek, for starting this. After this, I will not be seen anymore. Only we will hear Dr. Ravi Shankar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, madam. So, I wish to recall here the great contribution made by G.H. Ojha and Rao Bahadur Venkaya, both pioneers and great epigraphists who gave a firm foundation for epigraphical studies. In fact, we owe right from Wulfs to successive epigraphists for their great contribution in the area of epigraphy and paleographical studies. And this is a heritage, day, and we talk about a lot of heritage, and we have to think of preservation and conservation along with other art, architecture, sculpture, many things. I'm reminded of Sri Sivaramurthy long back observed, and his deep concern over the use of, vandalism that is taking place as a heritage. We have to take a deep, serious note of these things. He said, many copper plates are smelted, just for the value of the copper and their melt. So we don't know how many pages of history we are losing from each part of the country in some corner or the other. So a wide awareness need to be created. It is being created. Still, we have to do that. Again, you say many of the stone blocks beautifully chiseled, engraved. They are used for washing stones and all. And the hoards of coins that emerge through excavation, they are just again smelted, well, just for the value of the silver, gold, or copper. So this we have to rededicate ourselves on this World Heritage Day. How conscious, we can spread awareness among different parts of the country so that we can preserve and conserve our very, very rich heritage, especially epigraphical heritage, which, in fact, if volumes of books history is built, whether you take any dynasty to name, Gupta or Vakataka, any dynasty right from the early phase, 3rd century BC to late medieval period, any dynasty, a major chunk, of the epigraphs are used to build the history. Still, it is a very, very vibrant subject, I mean to say. Um, yes, archaeology, along with that, many subjects, epigraphy is also very vibrant. I was just mentioning even in my morning talk also how all along the excavations, how epigraphy and archaeology, they go together hand in hand. A lot of material, engraved materials do emerge in the course of excavation. And again, maybe in the form of coins where we have to read the legend, large number of seals and sealings. Again, the knowledge of script is required, and some images, maybe fragmentary, some inscription, some copper plate. So it becomes part and parcel of the archaeologists also should know how to study in situ. So this knowledge of script is extremely essential. So in keeping that in view, I am traveling to different parts of the country to create awareness and connect them to the present script through these ancient scripts. And we should also know the multi-dimensional approach. Prior to colonial period, the inscriptions were looked only to build a well-lit political history. And in the recent years, our attention has shifted to look into the cultural aspects like socio-economic history, religious history, many, many aspects which we have not tapped earlier. So now we have well-knit political history. We have to have the source, epigraphy as a primary source. I'm emphasizing epigraphy as a primary source. We have to see that both macro as well as micro level history need to be built utilizing throughout the length and the breadth of the country, which is available, and we have to use those sources. So inscriptions, varies, right from early Brahmi to various stages. In my talk, I would like to illustrate various phases. So it goes around the scripts and languages. The decipherable history, the epigraphy in India, begins with well-known records of Mauryan Emperor Ashoka, which are in Brahmi script. The problem regarding the origin of Brahmi script has exercised minds for several scholars during the last century and a half, ever since its successful decipherment by James Prince. Different scholars have expressed different views about the origin of Brahmi script. One thing, when we look at the literary sources, there is mention about the word Bhambi, which is a Prakrit form. When we see it, it is a Sanskrit Brahmi. Sambhavangana Sutra, Pandavana Sutra, and there are Jaina works which do mention about the script Brahmi, and very well known work, Lalita Vistara, belonging to 6th century. It gives a list of some 64 scripts, the very first being Brahmi, followed by Kharoshti, and other scripts are there. Just by way of illustration, I am showing the Rumindi pillar inscription, which normally we try to introduce the students who are practicing Brahmi through this inscription so that they can understand, which is, in fact, all the pillar edicts are most suitable for approaching and understanding the early Mauryan Ashokan Brahmi. And this is an inscription copied from Basaha, Minor Rock Edict 1, just to show how a stamp page look like, Minor Rock Edict 1. In the recent years, from the north, this has come, and a decade much earlier, we could visit the place. A team of from Epigraph branch visited and copied this inscription. So this how an stamp page look like. The Directorate of Epigraphy, almost around 1 lakh stamp pages they have, right from the establishment of the department, right in the 1887. Large number of stamp pages are copied and they are available for reference. Now there is a process of digitization. Probably after a few months, this one, it will be on the public domain so that the scholars who want to look into the original stamp page or the transcripts and the related material, they can see it will be accessible to facilitate much more research work. We are the government of India, the Archaeological Survey of India has taken initiative to document this because they are very old. When we talk about this, when you go to visit the certain sites, the stone may not be there. So the stamp page, what is preserved in the epigraphy branch, is the only one source. So we have to carefully preserve that, conserve that. Now, thanks to digitization and even a step ahead, people are going, like artificial intelligence, which has also making a slow foray into this realm of epigraphical studies. So this, very, very important. And I wish to say mainly for the students, when they do with their research or doctoral studies, kindly go through the original sources. Don't purely depend on the secondary sources to write. So please utilize this material. One thing to rewrite the history or to bring in some corrections. Now I am telling at this junction, I would like to add, large number of inscriptions have come to light. If you take especially the paleographical studies, after Professor Dani, there is no actually work on Indian paleography. Those scholars have focused on their regional scripts they have taken, like Sharda or Proto-Bengali or Proto-Odia or Tamil, for example, what they have worked. But work is needed, and in this context, now with the advanced technology, and we can digitize, and we can give more clarity to already what they have studied. Even we can improve the text upon what they have written. Earlier days, the huge number of inscriptions are now we can review them. In fact, where is a missing portion, if we again recopy it or retake the photo, if available, we can definitely improve upon what already has been sent. So this a piece of this one to take ahead the advantage of the modern technology. So, as regards to Brahmi, it has a very long history of, I should say, 1,500 years, say from 3rd century BC to 12th century. Normally, the paleographers, they take it, the period while studying the gradual development of the letters from 3rd century to 12th century. Yes, again, there are some modifications, changes, but with the invention of the printing media, after some centuries, this is not seen. But uh, this we can see here. And there is a work, Chinese Fa Val Shulin of 7th century Common Era, which also again refers to Brahmi script written from left to right, invented by Fan, that is Brahma. We can see this. So it is popularly accepted, established script employed by Ashoka was Brahmi to engrave his edicts, and for the benefit of Buddhist monks, he employed Prakrit language in 3rd century BC. Hence, the followers of Buddhism and Jainism used the Prakrit language for several centuries. It seems to be responsible for the origin and widespread of this script in the country. When you look at this, both the Buddhists and Jains, they were fond of writing. And when you look at the Brahminical tradition, the oral tradition was very, very popular. Hence, they committed to writing very few. But you see the many Buddhist works, similarly Jains, you have many works in this context. I wish to add here, now the use of script when we talk about in the recent years, there is a great upsurge going as far as the manuscriptology is concerned. We are trying to retrieve large number of manuscripts from different parts of the country, thanks to the Jnana Bharatam, these efforts. So here, the knowledge of the script is extremely essential. Only the inscriptions which are precursors to the manuscripts which are found from 6th and later period. So those who want to pursue manuscriptology also, here I wish to add that they have to know the various scripts, very popular like Sharda script, Grantha, and Pandulipi, early Nagari, where we have several thousands of manuscripts are written. So I'm emphasizing here, the knowledge of the script is even essential. It need not be confined only to the epigraphies. Archaeologists need to know epigraphy. Manuscriptologists also need to know epigraphy. So there is nothing, even the Sanskritists. When you take a talk of the inscription, the language and script are like obverse and reverse of a coin. Without the knowledge of the language, we can't pursue much. Only you will decipher. A successful epigraphist should have a profound knowledge also of the classical language, let it be Brahmi, this Pali, Prakrit, Sanskrit, or when you come down to the south, the respective classical language background is absolutely essential. Then only he can be a successful epigraphist. When we talk about epigraphy, it's a multidisciplinary subject. One need to have a very sound knowledge of the history, mythology, ephemeris. So many subjects, are needed to give a well-connected, for interpretation of inscription. Language is extremely essential. Now to talk about another very major script, Kharoshti. No doubt it has a limited area and period also. We recognize, the paleographers say from 3rd century BC to 3rd century Common Era, Kharoshti existed here in India. Later on, it went to Central Asia, and this is one of the major script, though confined to northwestern part of India, and its very origin is very certain. It's from North Semitic, Aramic, and then Kharosthi. That's how we trace its origin. And this is a very, very important script, especially Ashoka got his edicts engraved, which are found in Kharosthi script from Mansehra and Shabas Gari. And this is one such Vardak vase, a beautiful image, you can see here. Uh, this, you can take a look at this. And thanks to, again, we have to remember the great contribution made by Stan Kadon by editing all Kharoshti inscriptions in Corpus Inscription Volume 2, Part 2, where he has given a very elaborate introduction, which includes the calligraphical aspect, linguistic aspects, and whatever available at that point of time. Mostly, it contains wonderful facsimiles, inscription. So now we know when we talk of such scripts, there are very few scholars perhaps after B.N. Mukherjee. We need another great scholar to pursue and take ahead the study of the Kharoshti script. So besides Brahmi, Ashoka records are found in Kharoshti and also Aramic and Greek scripts. The Aramic and Greek scripts are used in the edicts found in Afghanistan, while one edict is in Taxila, now presently in Pakistan, is supposed to be in Aramic script. So, as just I told about before, Kharoshti is a modification of the Aramic script. The subjects in the northwest frontier of Ashokan Empire, they were already familiar with the Aramic script. So the Uttarapata region, what they call it, was under the control of Persia before Alexander's invasion. So they have to, they made this Kharoshti script as Professor B.N. Mukherjee described that etymological meaning, it is not as slipped or something which was misconstrued earlier in a wrong way. He said the script prevalent in particular the read Kharoshti, that is what he gives the etymological meaning. So it is written from right to left and used in rock edicts of Ashoka found at Mansehra and Shabasgari in the northwestern part. So after Ashoka, the use of Kharoshti script west into the western region, Mathura, the late Kushan rulers also used, and its use you find widely used by the Indo-Greek kings, Indo-Parthians, and other, where we have both biscriptal coins in Kharoshti and Brahmi and Greek and other scripts. So after 3rd century Common Era, it went beyond and was in use in Chinese Turkestan for about a century. So this is, yes, one very, very major script that prevailed all along with the Brahmi. Now, it did not survive in India, possibly because it was not suitable, of course, to write Prakrit, not of much of Sanskrit language. So, Brahmi script used by Ashoka survived in India for a century. It became mother of all modern scripts, both northern as well as southern, and also scripts of Southeast Asia. That's very significant. Now we know when you look at the concept of Brihad Bharata, these are all, when we say Jambu Dvipa, like that, all the countries surrounding, let it be Myanmar or any country, we have scripts which are very akin, close to the Brahmi. Yes, at least the early part, is very close to our early Brahmi till 5th and 6th, and even little later. And it got the local elements perhaps in 8th century and onwards. and all are written in beautiful Sanskrit also and their regional script. I wish to mention here, as Donny puts, three stages. I should have mentioned it a little earlier. He marks, three stages. When we take calligraphy and epigraphical studies together, he says the establishment of the Asiatic Society of Bengal, a very, very significant moment in the history. It gave not only impetus, great momentum to the Indological studies, but also epigraphical studies. That was a period, and the entire country was agog with the copying inscription found throughout the length and breadth of the country, and not even within India, even beyond. There were people who were copying inscription from Cambodia and other countries. And the second stage, which marks, the preparation of the paleographical charts, which is again very significant when to facilitate the scholars. And they started, the paleographers started working on that. And we have great contributions by right from Bueller to many, many others. Yes, of course, we cannot see we have to necessarily depend on Professor Dr. Sivaramurthy's work and Oja's Bharatiya Prachil Nipimala and Indian calligraphy written by Ahmad Hassan Dani. They are very, very significant. Now, there is a need to add some more to the, both in the area, of course, mainly in the area of calligraphy. So another very significant discovery is Battiprolu. When we talk about this, when you look at the flowchart prepared by C. Sivaramurthy, one thing is the Ashokan Brahmi, then followed by the Tamil Brahmi, and then the Battiprolu. So Ashokan Brahmi and onwards, he traces the development of all the subsequent dynasties like Shunga, Kushan, Chatrapa, Gupta, Vardhana, and so many. And on the other hand, the Tamil Brahmi, here I wish to add and congratulate those, archaeologists who are working at the Kiredi. They want to push the antiquity of Tamil Brahmi to 6th century based on other archaeological evidences. And yes, that is still perhaps discussed. And another one is Battiprolu. And from here, the subsequent dynasties which arose in Andhra are discussed in this, and they are traced from Battiprolu onwards, which are quite distinct from each other. And I would be talking when to from linguistic point of view, since the Tamil Brahmi, they have to bring in few more letters to suit the Tamil phonology language. That I will little later discuss. Yeah. According to some scholars, the script Battiprolu is Southern Brahmi inscription. It may be noted that some of the archaic Tamil inscription written early Brahmi characters found in Tamil caves could be as old as 4th. Yes, I wish to little modified, it can go early stages. And here, as Professor T.P. Verma and Upasak, they say, somewhere we can trace the beginning of the Brahmi script as a whole when there was a cultural efflorescence, when this Jainism and Buddhism and Gautam Buddha on one hand and Mahavira were born, at that time, that might have a period when Brahmi were also taken its origin. And it is said in clear terms, it's the brainchild of the Indian grammarians, no doubt about it. It's a very great spirit. So these are few examples I have tried to illustrate. All along with the description, I am trying to highlight some of the inscription here because it's a very wide area I'm covering, both in respect terms of the script as well as in terms of language. This is from Arachalur cave. Most of them they are spread over in the Tamil Nadu and part of Kerala region, and some inscription even bordering Karnataka. And they are normally found on the eyebrow of the cave, and they have Jaina affiliations mostly. And post Maurya and the Kushan script. In fact, before even the Shunga, they brought in small changes uh, as far as the letter forms are concerned. When you analyze those inscriptions, partly at the close of the first century BC and the beginning of the Christian era, and the Barhut inscription mainly, they show some development, though the technique almost remains same, but some letters, gaining angularities is seen as far as even the Shunga inscriptions are also concerned. And subsequently, when you talk about especially the Kshatrapas, Mathura Kshatrapas, they brought in change in the form of letters. Literally, a paradigm shift takes place at this phase when they brought in the technique, pen technique. You find the formation of the head mark, and it assumes different forms. You see, normally you see a top with a very prominent head mark and a long stroke, thickening in the beginning, and it tapers off when you just draw the stroke. That is what we see in the Kshatrapa. Long verticals are seen. That's one inference. And that is mainly attributed to the new writing. In the early phase, Ashokan, they used hematite or chalk to write it, and they cut it accordingly. But in the course of time, when you see most of the letters, without lifting the pen, they used to form the stroke. With the, yes, not in the Kushan phase, especially in the Kshatrapa phase, you find a small head mark appearing, which further developed into regular head marks in the course of time. So this is a wonderful, most beautiful inscription. You see, it is from Mathura inscription of Sodasa. In the beginning, you see the Swasti, this Srivatsa symbol, like it goes in a pure Sanskrit. Swamisya Mahakshatrapasya, Shandasasya, Gajavarasya, Brahmanasya, Shegravasa Gotrasya, like that it goes on. It's significant also Shri Puja. See this mention at the end, the worship of goddess, the Lakshmi, Shri, Chiri. Perhaps this is the earliest epigraphical evidences. We have instances, sculptural references like Gajalakshmi. Perhaps this is one early instance where Lakshmi is, Shri is mentioned, stands for Lakshmi. When you see this inscription, you can just see how they equalize the verticals, long strokes are done on, and equally the medial signs are taking a curve. And bit of this, in fact, I chose when we conducted an exhibition on calligraphy in Sanskrit inscription. Perhaps this was one of the important exhibits I tried to describe. This, you see the long strokes and beautifully well engraved. Again, this is a Kushan inscription. It is from Mathura. Mathura is a great treasure house. I wish to state many. The museum has a large number of inscriptions, both Brahminical, Jain, and Buddhist. In fact, you can see the genesis, the beginning, and trace, if you say, trace the either to study the beginnings of the Buddhism or Jainism or the Brahminical, it's a nucleus, I should say. So many Kankali Tila, so many surrounding areas, yielded large number of inscription. Perhaps it formed the nucleus for our entire cultural, and it diffused to a different region. So Mathura is one such place. It houses large number of inscription, including the inscription belonging to the Kushans. So, coming again to the Kshatrapa phase, Dani stated that new writing tool is comprised of sharp-edged pen. Due to this and due to the fact that more and more private individuals, besides the royal person, took the mode of writing, a noticeable change in the development of the scripts appear from this period onwards. Because there is also discussion when you read the Dani, why at all, we should give the appellation Shunga script or Kushan, Chatrapa. We can't simply say early Brahmi, but for easy understanding, identifying each period with their own unique way of writing system, still it's quite popular among the teaching staff and the students also. We try to ascribe to the particular dynasty because why the argument is that in the beginning, there were few inscriptions. So naturally, the paleographers are tend to give the dynastic name, but later they say when the number of inscription increased fairly, as I mentioned, even private individuals also issued inscriptions. So it can be, we can simply date it to the early Brahmi phase or late Brahmi and like that. So this is one such discussion we find here. When you go into the little bit detail, the use of the pen made letters in their vertical position thick at the top and gradually thin towards the bottom, giving a dagger-like shape. So that is the, when we say the, especially the letter Ka, he says is a dagger variety, dagger-like shape. So, with the passage of time, it may be noted that the number of private individuals' records increased compared to the official records. Further, it may be noted that during the Kushana period, first and second century commentary, different styles developed in different localities which continued. In fact, they say in the Kushan period itself, we discern two varieties. One is the Eastern and the Western. Normally, the Eastern variety is taken without head mark, and they make a small distinction. Yes, from Gupta onwards, more and more regional the varieties emerge, but that could be as well traced even in the Kushan period inscriptions itself. A distinguished feature in this is in this head mark. Now the late Brahmi, in fact, I wish to call late Brahmi because here we are focusing, of course, on the Gupta. When you take the contemporary rulers, their feudatories, like the Parivrajakas and the Bulundas, so many contemporary dynasty, that again a detailed paleographical study need to be taken because we have limit ourselves to certain period and we have to make a very little more exhaustive study as far as the late Brahmi period is concerned. We have to take all the contemporary inscriptions and make a study, though they share the basic form, but there are some more regional varieties may come. In-depth study is required as far as late Brahmi is concerned. So the next is in the Gupta, and timeline I suggest from 4th to 6th century. So the early Brahmi stage, ends from 3rd century BC to 3rd century Common Era, and then the late Brahmi starts from 4th century Common Era. This gives a glimpse, the cross section of a section of the Allahabad pillar inscription or Prayaga Prashasti. Unfortunately, you see at that point itself, you may see many medieval inscriptions are thrown in. The scholars first, Troyer, Captain Troyer first brought it to notice and subsequently edited this. So this is the Allahabad Prashasti or Prayag Prashasti of Samudragupta. Hence, it's called Gupta script. This is, I would prefer to call this late Brahmi. Prior to this, he calls early Brahmi, 3rd to 3rd century Common Era. The Gupta script is divided to northern and southern. Southern in the sense, the southern domain of the Guptas, not the southern as such, which has even the central Indian variety. When you see, you find, the Aaron inscription of Samudragupta betrays both, it has both box-headed and the nail-headed, both are in the same inscription, Aaron inscription of Samudragupta, which C. Sivaramurthy has tried to highlight in his work. And the northern varieties further divide to northeastern, northwestern, and sub varieties are there. This is how a detailed study is there. But when we look at the corpus inscription of Indicaran, see, there are chapters added on administration, religious conditions, so many aspects. Even under individual inscription, hardly there are 3, 4 lines, about the calligraphical aspects, which could have been something more our predecessors could have written while adding a note. Normally, when you edit an inscription, there will be a note on the calligraphy and the orthographical aspects and all, but this could be little more extended to take into account all the features that are found in respective inscriptions. So post-Gupta period, we have this, it runs from 6th to 10th century Common Era. In North India, written in the scripts called by different names. Since the letters begin to incline from right to left, resulting in the formation of acute angle or right end of some letter, the script called acute angle script. By Bueller, subsequently Fleet named it as Kutila, and further you see the Alberuni names this script as Siddhamatrika script. So these scripts is very significant, especially from 6th to 8th century. Though we try to highlight Madhuban or Banskeda like that few, where, no doubt when we analyze the inscriptions of Siddhamatrika, it reaches a peak period. Again, there is a progression towards different scripts like early Nagari, Proto-Bengali, as well as Sharda script, which emanates further, you see the emerging from the Siddhamatrika phase. And this is a beautiful inscription, copper plate charter. It is preserved in Jnana Pravaha, Varanasi. Yes, in the end you can see Swahasto Mama Maharajadiraja Sri Harsasya. You can see in this part last. So as I mentioned earlier, Siddhamatrika, a term used by Al-Biruni in the 11th century Common Era. It is also called Arni Nagari from it, later Nagari. And I wish to add, and I have also contributed an article. There is, in the 5th century, whether in the south or north, in the most of the articles edited in Epigraphia Indica, they say if it is north, northern characters. If it is again in the south, we call it southern characters. So perhaps a century, if you take, 5th to 6th century, that is remained, uncertain post-Gupta phase. We tend to call it the northern script as far as North India, and in the south it is called southern. Later it assumes different names. Now I restudied them and tried to give more clarity as far as the northern characters, what are them, and then subsequently the Siddhamatrika and the early Nagari. Because when you see the early Epigraphia Indica volumes, most of the inscription which has a clear indication of the Siddhamatrika, they are trying to even name it as early Nagari. So it's they perhaps it overlaps, or there was not much clarity. So there is always this one. Even the Siddhamatrika, they call it early Nagari, and now I think we can more clearly define with their the ornamentation, one such aspect, and many other things. So further it developed Sharda script, the Kashmir, Punjab, and Proto-Bengali or Gaudiya script in Bengal and all. So this is further development you see. Gaudiya Proto-Bengali script is derived from Siddhamatrika, prevalent in Bengal, Bihar, Assam, Orissa, Nepal, and all. And here again, I revert back to one of the early, I should say. Now many more inscriptions, early Brahmi inscriptions have come, late Brahmi rather. This is Umachal inscription of Surendra Verma from Gauhati, and it reads with a tiled ma, eastern variety of the Gupta alphabet. When you see Maharajadhiraja Sri Surendra Varmana Krita Bhagavataha Balabhadra Swamineyaha Idam Guha. Like that it runs. Perhaps when you talk about the importance, the Bhagavataha Balabhadra and is perhaps the earliest occurrence as far as the Eastern Indian is concerned. It was very popular in Puri Jagannath, this one. And I am trying to illustrate here from Tripura. Again, it's a rich repository of many inscriptions. You know, Tripura coins are also there. Many copper plate charters are there. And when you look at especially the northeast, we have tried to confine mostly to the West Bengal and not to go beyond that. So Pragjyotisha, Kamarupa, whatever earlier scholars have done, they have done. But there are many more new inscriptions have come, and the students of ancient history and archaeology of that region, they should be made known the great legacy or the heritage they have in their land. So Assam has, even Manipur also has a large number of inscriptions written in Manipuri, and we need to trace the resource persons who can decipher large number of inscriptions that are there, and Tripura also has. So much epigraphical survey need to be taken in these regions also, all along the other archaeological discoveries, or a team need to be again revisit them, and we should try to identify those scholars who are adept in these scripts so that we can enrich the history of the northeastern region too. So in Bihar and Nepal, the script was used. You find this because when we talk about this in the recent years, we call it Proto-Odia or Proto-Bengali, even Proto-Assamese. So earlier, we used to give a common nomenclature like Proto-Bengali. Now, they are trying to find, the scholars there, some earlier inscription which are of distinct nature, though they share certain features. They used to call it Proto-Odia, Proto-Bengali, and Proto-Assamese too. So these are all the recent developments in the area of paleographical study. And this is the Gaya inscription of Narayana Pala. This is one very significant inscription which is stated. When we look at the decipherment, the history of decipherment of the Brahmi script, it all started from the late period, 11th and 12th century. Later they come to the Gupta, and then they approach this Ashokan Brahmi. It is from there, that period, early medieval to the early phase. So this is a beautiful inscription we have here. Gaya inscription of Narayana Pala. It is, you have so many sculptures especially in this area belonging to this Proto-Bengali script. Further noted that 7th, the Eastern Ganga dynasty, Kalinga, there are so many. If you, each region, they have worked, taking the regions also, that's very significant. See, Nagari, it's not Devanagari. Yes, according to me, though I have not tried to illustrate here, a study reveals that subtle differences. One is early Nagari and Devanagari. Normally, Devanagari, it is taken from 15th century. At present, what we write Sanskrit or Hindi, it is Devanagari. Its precursors, we call it Nagari and early Nagari, a gradual development. So when we look at things in a way, I consider Brahmi, both the early phase and the late, as a pan-Indian script. And in the second wave, when we say, Nagari, early Nagari as a pan-Indian script, these are the two when we see, of course, both in the context of North and South also, which I would be telling. See, all along with the regional languages, Sanskrit retained its position, and Sanskrit as a pan-Indian language, though for a shorter period we had like 6th century in the north, the usage of Prakrit is seen in the north from 3rd century Common Era to 3rd century, and little later in the south, because the early Pallava charters, they are written in Pallava, this early, the Prakrit language. So then from Gupta onwards, there is no looking back. The medieval period, late medieval period, Nayakas, you take any dynasty, even the south I am mentioning, whether the Chola, Chera, Pandya, any dynasty or dynasties of Karnataka that ruled over, all along with the regional language, the Sanskrit also employed, and preferably sometime we have inscription written in Sanskrit, in Kannada script, and of course they developed a unique script, Grantha, to write Sanskrit in Tamil Nadu region. So Nagari also developed. When you look into the inscription of early Chalukyas and all, you find the Nagari usage, Rashtrakutas and all, no further it developed. So Nagari as a pan-Indian script in the second half is very, very significant. The first half, the Brahmi, and the second half, Nagari, and of course it dominating the entire Indian subcontinent with the variations. So the Siddhamatra script gave rise to Eastern Nagari in the Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh. From 10th century onwards, the Nagari was developed in Rajasthan, Gujarat. These are all the variations you find when we examine the early Nagari script. So, as I mentioned, Devanagari is now used for writing Hindi all over India and also Sanskrit. From some 10th century onwards, Nagari was used in northern India. It gave rise to many local scripts. See, I wish to mention here, especially which I have not mentioned, between 6th and 8th century, we have some scripts which I have not mentioned here. One is the shell character, Shankulipi, which we have documented. We have many are there. To my knowledge, except that one which Professor B.N. Mukherjee is accepted by all, in the Lucknow Museum, there is one horse where we have an inscription written in Shankulipi. So again, many are documented. I was surprised to know in the recent, the Directorate Epigraphy and their team, when they were surveying some forest region in Andhra Pradesh, they have come across some shell character inscription. which is something very surprising. Normally, it was confined to the northern region, but their discovery in the Andhra is very interesting. And of course, they have their own, earlier Professor Mukherjee has done, followed by Richard Solomon. So still it remains a little undeciphered script, but it should not be difficult when you follow the clue with the late Brahmi and it's further camouflaging the letters in their own way, that I think we can, course of time, try to know the script and whether they any uh, particular style they followed in. These are all research, little more study need to be taken. Another script which I wish to add here is Bhikshuki, bhikshus, Buddha bhikshus. Hardly half a dozen inscriptions are known, especially from the eastern part of Bihar, where it is of religious nature, and with the Pali influence, they say almost all edited by D.C. Sarkar. It is called Bhikshuki because Buddhist bhikshus employed this and they created their own way of style of writing and peculiar in certain aspects as far as the head mark is concerned or attaching a medial sign and all. It is very interesting, but they are very much limited, and a paleographical study has already been done with regard to that. Now, again, I'm going little back. The box edit is very important. I mentioned earlier the Udaygiri cave inscription has some box edit. Later, the Vakatakas, their contemporaries, they developed this as a unique variety, which is found the Deccan and the central India. And this script further found its way deeper into the central India, where the Sarvapuriya, Somavamshi, Panduvamshi rulers also used this. So Madhya Pradesh, Vakatakas, the kings of Sarvapura, Kosala, that is from 4th to 7th century, we have both box-headed, nail-headed characters. Again, that need to be a little more detailed study of the paleographical aspects need to be taken up for this inscription. And thanks to Professor Ajay Mitra Shastri ji and the ICHR, they have brought a volume in 2 parts, which deals with the Panduvamshi, Somavamshi rulers and Sarvapuriya rulers. So this is a typical Yavatmal plates of Pravarasena. You see the box-headed variety here, and yes, many are there. When you look into the corpus edited by V.B. Mirashi, he has included almost all at that point of available, including there are some lithic inscriptions are there. And as you all know, well know, what the copper plate meant for, and normally they are land grants given to specific group of Brahmanas or Brahmana, and they range from different period. And when you look at the format of the inscription, generally I wish to add here, it begins with invocation, followed by date. Then following that, we have the invocatory verses, and then the genealogy of the king is given, and then comes the operative portion where the object of the inscription it records, followed by the imprecations. It begins with invocation. Normally, all the land grants, even some lithic also, where land grant transactions are there, it also records some imprecations. And it's a matter when you see the Gupta period copper plates, the imprecations are very few, limited to 1 or 2 verses. But in the course of time, the medieval and late medieval, you find the multiplication, more and more imprecations they brought. The reason behind that is the infringement, taking away, or this, that happened to create a sort of, we can trace the history of the invocatory verses from the early charters, and how it, in the course of time, they added more and more imprecations to safeguard the interests of the land. So that is one aspect. And finally, which I wish to emphasize in this talk is, in a copper plate or a stone, like a big preciosity or good record, three persons are involved. One is the composer of the inscription, who composes the record, whether in Sanskrit or regional language, it is mentioned. Not only he, it mentions his father, grandfather, normally three generations it gives, and subsequently followed by the writer, the writer who writes. Preferably, when you look at a copper plate charter, they were first written on a birch leaf or palm leaf. Subsequently, they translated it after carrying drishtam, you can see in most of the inscription. After verifying, after certifying, it will be written on a copper plate. And to this tendency to give more permanency to the record, perhaps prior to the stone or copper plate, there must have existed, when you look back, they have not remained with us. There must have a tradition to record things on a perishable material which has not survived to us. So, a writer plays a very, very important, crucial role in defining the paleographical aspects of a particular period. And again, we find his name, his father and grandfather in some of the important record. And lastly, the engraver. Engraver might be a common man, even a mason. Sutradhara also involved in cutting the inscription. He implicitly, faithfully, he cuts the letter, and he doesn't do anything. But when you take into the account, the role of the writer is very, very important in defining the scope of the letter in the different parts of time. Now, coming to the South Indian scripts, uh, I wish to add some more thing here. I told, in the early phase, even south, barring the Tamil Nadu and Kerala, we have Ashokan rock edicts, and then followed by the Satavahana period and later Satavahana. And in the Karnataka, we have other different dynasties ruling. And 7th century or even 5th century we take as far as Kannada earliest Halmidi inscription, and subsequently in the 5th, 6th century, you find slowly the emergence of Tamil and Telugu also. One is the archaic Tamil, which is employed in the early uh, Tamil Brahmi inscription. So this is the later early Cholas, Pandyas, subsequently Pandyas, Cheras, and all. They brought Tamil. We have inscriptions of Chola, Pallava, Cholas, and Pandyas. And especially, they are in three varieties. Grantha script, which I mentioned earlier, it is specifically created to write Sanskrit language. As you know, Tamil script is not suitable, rather to write the Sanskrit language. So, to bring in, when you examine any important record where the invocatory verses are there, they wrote it in Grantha, followed by the, and wherever necessitated, they try to bring in Sanskrit words are there, they use to Grantha. And of course, if it is a copper plate, the imprecations, when Sanskrit is there, they try to use Grantha letters. Next is a Tamil script, which you all know. Of course, the origin lies with the Brahmi only. And the Vattelth. Vattelth is very important, which is when you see it's a circular movements. And there is one letter, very Kolelth also is there. Rarely we find such inscriptions. So these are the letters normally we find uh, in Tamil Nadu, especially these 3-4 scripts, Grantha, script, and Vattelth. And the Pallava Grantha is again unique for their calligraphical elements, especially Either when you go to the Mamallapuram or Kailasanatha temple and many Pallava, they created a wonderful calligraphy, nothing's to match that. And when you see the Kailasanatha temple, you see they are written in this. And even Athirana Chandeshwara, on one hand, you have that Siddhamatrika script, some say early Nagari, but it has many features of the Siddhamatrika. And then the other hand, you have this Pallava Grantha. So it's a very, very important script to be noted. This, as an illustration, I have taken the Tiruvandalur copper plate of Rajendra Chola, you know well. Earlier to this, Karandai copper plate was known, and a monograph was prepared by, edited by Professor Dr. K.G. Krishnan, and subsequently they found this of Rajendra Chola II, and it is a very huge one running to 93 plates. It's well preserved in the Egmore, the State Museum. When you happen to see, please visit. On the left side now, you see the margin, a hole where it is connected with a ring and the seal. Normally here I have tried to display the seal also. This Chola suzerainty over other dynasties is well depicted. And this is a very important one. And the state archaeology has brought out a monograph on this, partly edited by Professor Nagaswamy and another scholar. So when we take as a whole in the south, the Malayalam script or the language, it came much later. Even in the earlier period, we have Sanskrit, the inscriptions there, and we trace the development of Malayalam to directly to the Vatteluttu later, and also from the Grantha. From the early form Telugu Kannada script, we find the early Kadambas, Banavasi, early Chalukyas, Badami, and Shalankayana, many dynasties, we call it a common script, Telugu, Kannada. Now the scholars, they say both have different origin. As the simple fact is that the serif, which you find on the top, it doesn't make much difference in the early phase. Only in the 12th century onwards, there is a marked change to be seen in both the script. That's what earlier scholars, paleographers, gave a common script for Telugu, Kannada. So this is from Vadagere inscription of Chalukya, Vikramaditya. You see a sage. See this, again, very interesting factor. There are many, many inscriptions with the symbol or the such, this one, and Shivalinga and all is there. A sage with the matted hair, he is seated with the kamandalu and other thing. So on the other hand, behind the Shivalinga, you see the Surya, Chandra. That's only to mark, yes, here, to give Achandrarkam, when we say, the record should last as long as sun and moon last. That is the whole intention, normally when you notice this inscription. Further development you see in this. When we look at this Nagarjuna Konda inscription, when deep down the early, the Chalukyas, the Satavahana period, you can see here, Namo Bhagavata Agapagalasa Rayo Gotami Putasa, like that it goes. So I have tried to illustrate the early Brahmi phase here in this record. And this is the inscription, Panigiri. The Andhra, when you go around, it's very well known for many Buddhist sites, like Amaravati, Nagarjuna Konda, Panigiri. There are so many Buddhist sites are there. Yes, in Karnataka, Sanati, So why I'm trying to illustrate the influence of the late Satavahanas seen in this, and the Ikshwaku rulers, the successors of, they developed a unique style of writing where you see the strokes getting long and the medial signs have much of calligraphy elements and beautifully written. So this is rated as one of the important calligraphy status. So we were just mentioning, along with trade, the language and the script also traveled, and there are very early instances, perhaps when sometime before when I attended a seminar hosted by the Indian Institute of Heritage, inviting some scholars from Southeast Asia. There, they brought some scholar, brought some seals, which goes even much early phase. So we have to review, reconsider the contacts, perhaps in the light of the recent discovery, they made there. And that's what I thank at this junction for IIH for conducting such seminar. And especially I wish to thank Madam Professor Anupam ma'am for having more inclination, leanings towards Southeast Asia. Yes, definitely we need to do more surveys, bring more surveys, because they were all done long back, whether it is from Cambodia, Java, Sumatra, and all. And we need to go there. Similarly, those scholars also need to come to our country. So we have to update ourselves. See, sometimes, we are still in the old, this one. We don't know the latest discoveries. So unless periodically we do conduct such seminars or conferences, bringing those, inviting those scholars, and we can have more knowledge about their epigraphical. There's one thing, archaeology is there. Why not on epigraphs? Many times I talk, we need to review the status of epigraphy. With all this, we do, and much need to be done to uplift, to revive epigraphical studies. And no doubt, Indian Institute of Heritage has taken a lead by setting up a department for calligraphy, epigraphy, and numismatics. But it's all our collective responsibility to strengthen and create more ways and means, to uh, improve, strengthen the subject. So Brahmi script we find also in Sri Lanka, yes, and Burma. And I was to mention when the early phase, like Epigraphia Indica, there are few volumes like Epigraphia Zeylanica, Epigraphia Burmica. Such works are there, and hardly there are few, and they have brought out. Especially, I was told the Cambodia, which has around 1,200 Sanskrit inscriptions dated in Shaka era, and I am also working on the zero, uh, how it proceeded. If Cambodian inscription has 602 or 603 Shaka era dated, naturally it must have gone through India rather than from other source like China or other. So Shaka is basically a Indian date, and naturally we can expect all along the coastal region it could have traveled to the Southeast Asia. So this is one important inscription. There are many I have chosen. You can see how close they are to the Pallava Grantha. You find, when we study the influence of the Kadambas are seen, and also the Pallavas mostly when there are such inscription. This Mahendra Varman inscription of Bangkok is very significant. There are many such inscription when we study, especially up to 5th and 6th century. As long they used Sanskrit, and this it's for us, it's we can easily, and there also we need to do calligraphical studies. So the Brahmi script traveled to Sri Lanka probably during the period of Ashoka himself, and has developed and Sinhalese script after passing through various stages. Similarly, the present alphabets of Burma, Thailand, Indonesia, Laos, Annam, Cambodia, etc., all are derived from Brahmi script. The inscriptions in the areas of Java, Sumatra, Cambodia found during the 4th to 6th century are couched in beautiful Sanskrit language in versified form. That we have to know. In fact, when I was reading, going through a book, they say the Sanskrit written is of much higher order than those found in Indian subcontinent. So the languages of the inscription, as we are aware, Sanskrit is the oldest language and Vedic literature, but it may be seen that the epigraphical language in early past, before Christian era, was Prakrit, as known from, but all along with the Prakrit, Sanskrit did exist as a language of the echelons of higher hierarchy among the Brahminical community. Perhaps it was a lingua franca. That's what Ashoka preferred to get his edicts written in Prakrit and a smaller group of contemporary inscriptions. So besides Prakrit, Ashoka written in Greek and Aramaic language. So language is equally important when I stress, one aspect is the script, and language is equally important, which we have to equip ourselves to decipher and know the content and this one. So after the period of Ashoka, the use of Prakrit continued inscription for a few more centuries. That is up to 3rd century in the North Indian context, and in the South, a century more, we can say. As I mentioned earlier, the early Pallava charters we find is written in Prakrit. As stated above, Prakrit was the language of the earliest inscription. So the contemporary rulers of Guptas in central India, parts of Deccan, Vakatakas, Kadamba, Gangas, Karnataka, and the Pallavas also employed Sanskrit as a court language. That's what I was mentioning. All along with the regional language or script, Sanskrit also maintained its supremacy and as a court, especially we have charters written in Sanskrit, copperplate charters, as well as in regional languages also. You find it. So Sanskrit became epigraphic and pan-Indian language from 4th century onwards, replacing Prakrit. Regional languages Tamil, Kannada and Telugu began their appearance in 5th to 6th century. I told the earliest, as far as we know, Halmidi inscription is the earliest Kannada inscription. Later we find Telugu and Tamil almost contemporaneously coming through. And among the language, in the 15th century onwards, you find Malayalam. And in most of the North Indian appears in the 15th century. So 11th, yes, century onwards, we have Marathi inscription and written in Marathi. And even when you go little, Marathi inscription in written Nagari characters, language is Marathi. Mostly around 14th, 15th century, like Gujarati, Bengali has little, the Bengali script also, after the Proto-Bengali phase, around 13th, 14th century, we have Bengali and the Punjabi with the Gurumukhi script. So these are the scripts which emerged little later after the 13th, 14th, 15th century onwards. So with this, I conclude my talk, and as far as inscriptions are concerned, as per the contents of the inscription, they have been classified. We have, as you know, the lithic and copper plate, which I should have mentioned a little earlier, the Dana Shasana, Kraya Shasana, Vijay Shasana, Yupa, Hero Stone. It all depends, on the based on the contents of the inscription they were called, and they were also engraved on different metals, like a rare metal like Kirari inscription. When you see, it is on a wooden pillar, and we have conch inscription written on bell. So these are all the various scripts on various materials also. So I have tried to give a very, very wide understanding of the language, of course, the script and language that prevailed from 3rd century BC up to 12th century, taking into account all, wherever possible, have tried to highlight it with the respective inscriptions and scripts which prevail. So I thank the organizations for giving me this opportunity to give a wider, for the wider approach, to the subject. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come, sir. And there are a few questions that people have raised. If you could answer those first, and then I can give an official uh, thank you to the lecturer and sum it up. The first question is by Mr. Kiran, who's asking if Prakrit has any influence on South Indian languages such as Kannada and Telugu.
Yes. See, the dialectical, not exactly Prakrit, yes, it has. When we see as a dialect, we find, it's a more of linguistic. Much research need to be done, and how yes, I do agree, there is influence. Because as far as North also is concerned, I was telling earlier, a phase where we have Sanskrit inscriptions having Prakrit influence. Similarly, Prakrit inscription having the Sanskrit inscription. Similarly, the case, the Prakrit, yes, because the language that prevailed in that particular region, it did influence. Yes, this is a very interesting question, and much work need to be taken up as a linguistic. It has to be analyzed. I have not gone much deeper into these aspects. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question is by Ardhya Tyagi, who is asking, what are your views on Professor Trotman calling Brahmi inspired by the Greek script?
Can you just repeat it, please?
So the question says, what are your views on Professor Trotman calling Brahmi inspired by Greek script? So he's asking if what your views on whether or not Brahmi has been influenced by Greek.
See, it's purely his own individual opinion. I don't go with that. To me, I go with Upasa or this one. It's the genius of the Indian grammarians. See, there are so many theories are there. It's not acceptable. See, it is individual approach, the Greek influence and all. When they, see this indigenous theories are there, foreign theories are there, which is already there. Even earlier scholars also did propose. To me, it is a little untenable to take the influence. It is more or less an indigenous thing created by, as Professor T.P. Verma also puts it, it is the genius of the Indian grammarians that given to the rise of the Brahmi script.
Thank you, sir. There's another question where Mr. Kiran is asking if you could suggest any articles regarding evidence related to the Shank script in Andhra Pradesh.
Andhra Pradesh, yes. No, Andhra Pradesh, it's a very, very a few months before. To my knowledge, there was no. Dr. Muniratnam, the director, brought to my notice during their survey in the forest region, they could come across some Shankulipi. Normally, its prevalence is seen in this northern India, central India, and other part. But to my knowledge, I think this is the first instance where they have it is yet to be deciphered. No book or article still written. Still, the scholars are working on it. Some inscription which has come. Yes, Sharma, and there is a book on collection, edited articles on shell character inscription. Professor Sharma has brought, where it includes articles written by Solomon and Mukherjee and others. That general book is there, but this is still not a much explored area. And that too south in Andhra, it's a new thing. I don't think there is no book, nothing is. Still, we find many more we have to see. Further explorations, if it is, we have to see. Otherwise, it's a rarity as far as South India is concerned.
So finally, I think the last question till now is: are there any resources where we can learn these languages through self, or an institutional approach is needed? Can you please suggest some steps for self-learning?
Languages, see, normally the workshop they conduct, their focus, including me, we conduct on the script based, just highlighting the important inscription, their content. Uh, yes, language, yes, as far as if I am correct, to learn the language, I think IGNCA, they are conducting some short-term courses because along with the Sharda script, they also teach the language. Along with the Grantha, perhaps, when it comes to manuscriptology, along with the script, I think they teach the languages. Otherwise, yes, to learn Prakrit, to have many other institutions, yes, Sanskrit, I would like to say, either the culture ministry, there are so many online things out there. Learning language is important, but from this point of view, no workshop such is conducted as far as epigraphy is concerned. Yes, maybe in the regional language when they deal, they highlight the important the inscriptions and the language in its written and its contents. So, as a linguistic course, it is not done. That you have to seek elsewhere. And I think there are so many online and offline classes they conduct to pick up language.
So just one more question just came up, which
Yes.
is: can we find any developmental stages in Kharoshti like Brahmi script?
This is a very, I couldn't address this during my talk. Uh, if you look at this right from 3rd century BC to 3rd century Common Era, this is the only script, there is no evolution at all, whether it is on the coins or on the inscription or any material. The same, this is practically, it has no evolution is seen. What you see in the 3rd century, even in the Common Era also it continued. So it's of the opinion, though I have not done a deeper study, the Kharoshti inscription, but it is of general observation. Kharoshti script has not at all
Can I be
undergone
heard?
any.
Can I be
any
heard? Mehak,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You're audible, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
that I heard just now.
Yes, ma'am. Now
Can you
you're
hear
audible. Yes, ma'am.
All right. That though, I mean, veterans like him are doing workshops. Who asked that question? The last question, may I know the name? You have the name? Agni Prabhu.
No, ma'am. It was Miss Devika L. Awat.
Devika, I would also still, that is a whole purpose, don't you see? That why we have established this first ever Department of Paleography, Epigraphy, and Numismatics. We are not having an age bar even to the admissions of MA over here. It is really important. You may do several institutions may have some sort of certificates and all. We have Dr. Ravi Shankar as a teacher also, by the way, in our institute. We think he's like a faculty. Every semester he teaches papers. But a regular properly conducted MA course for 2 years really prepares you. I mean, the person who asks whether I am a person who knows a number of scripts in a number of languages, you really have to join a proper course to really understand it. Otherwise, you will forget. Also, have a degree in your
Very
hand. If you are young and you wish to, this is a very job oriented MA also. Why? Because when you push for things trying to say, I'm good, you scream, nobody listens to you. If you're one in a million, I mean, there are a million inscriptions, you are the one person who knows. Dr. Ravi Shankar may be 75 years, he doesn't even have 75 hours free to himself. Even now, he's teaching everywhere. So, if you really wish to learn and go ahead with this, and there is a lot of, because it's a skill based thing, you can do a lot of consultancies, do a lot of work in this. I would really say that is why don't you join our MA course, because that is why we established it. It all is separate from archaeology. So all the
very
nuance,
true.
the questions that you have been asking, I was hearing, all those
Yeah.
will be answered. You will be the ones to know. Our students, Dr. Ravi Shankar, he's a teacher in our institute. All the Southeast Asian scholars were so impressed by them. They're the few young people they know, who are learning this. But I would say whether you're young or middle aged or old, we do not have an age bar in our MA. So this is what I would like to say. I
Yeah.
mean, you
Yeah.
must. Why do you want to join only his workshop? You must come here and do an MA and do all the courses with him. He is none less than a regular faculty with us. That is what I want.
Ma'am, some people
Yes,
are also
I
asking.
fully endorse, madam, your statement. I
Yes,
forgot to
please do,
mention,
Devika.
even you have
Please do.
languages also taught all along with the scripts. You have
Exactly.
offering languages. That
One thing I
it's
would like to
it
say,
slipped out
most
of
of
my mind. In fact, you are conducting, to teach Sanskrit, Prague. You have faculties coming teaching language also. It's a very unique institution where they blend. You find script and languages taken together. I fully go with the madam, and
No,
yes,
what I was
please do
saying,
join. Yes,
I have also been an archaeology MA. I'm archaeology
yes,
and art history both. But I was specializing in archaeology. When you do an archaeology course, you do 500 papers there. You have to be specialized in some. Jack of all trades and master of none doesn't work these days. Because there are so many people who are doing that. So epigraphy will only be one paper where you will do the standard formulaic paper inscriptions. But when I think Dr. Ravi Shankar established, and he was very traumatized when I told him, I know I'm taking a bit of time, I leave you all. When I said you have to do the first Pallav Brahmi paper and South Indian, and he was very troubled. And I got after his life. I said, no, I'm a perfectionist. So he did Pallav, Vishnu, and all the Brahmis, various types of Brahmis, which have influenced Southeast Asia a lot. I'm a great specialist in that, in Southeast Asia sector. And I really want to tell all of you, there are thousands of inscriptions in Southeast Asia, of Brahmi, whether in Sanskrit, many of them mostly are in Sanskrit. All of you must make a big team and go out and conquer the world with this, Brihattar Bharat policy. And Dr. Ravi Shankar will also go along with you as your teacher. Thank
Ma'am, some students are also asking how do they enroll in the course, and
That
they.
I think, can you please contact Mehak also? And please, Mehak, can you contact? I'm already thinking of all of you as our students, and please help them out for this because we have a very practical oriented, a lot of field work. We'll take you to the different epigraphical centers. You have to learn to read off. Not only do translated stuff, transliterate, so that after 2 3 years you graduate, you can become a consultant independently. Like Dr. Ravi Shankar, who's a beacon of light, even at 75 years, you will carry forward this. None of us will be there at that time, but you will be there. I mean, I want you to be the future marshals and the future, the future Ravi Shankars, maybe. Thank you so much, all of you. Mehak, can you give the formal vote of thanks, please?
Ma'am, there are a few more questions. I'll just ask them and then go ahead with the formal vote.
Yes. Can you, if Dr. Ravi Shankar has the patience, if he's not tired, a couple of questions more, or I will very humbly ask you if you're okay with it.
Okay.
Mehak, please also mention the name of the person who's asking.
Okay.
And those who have already asked, maybe you can take the other questions. I do appreciate those who have already asked, but those whose questions have not been answered, perhaps you can take some of them. And we are only dependent on Dr. Ravi Shankar's patience. Thank you so much.
So, Mr. Agni Prabhu Talukdar is asking if the distinguishable feature of Kushan style writing is only the head marks.
No. See, there are two varieties discerned in the Kushana type of writing. They say the eastern variety Kushana doesn't have, but very thin line head mark appears as far as the other, which even the Guptas also continued, the post Kushan, but the head mark, what you are asking, it's a very, very significant aspect as far as Kshatrapa's inscription is concerned. I think you're slightly mistaken on showing. It is not a very important, prominent feature as far as the Gupta inscriptions are. Yes, it is so with the Kshatrapa inscription, head mark is very prominent, not with regard to the Kushans. Thank you. Yes, please.
Sir, another question is if Tamil Brahmi has any influence on the Indian subcontinent.
Indian subcontinent, it's a very difficult question to answer. Yes, it might have had some influence in Sri Lanka and the other adjacent, the southern part. Yeah, its influence, rather we see in the Tamil region because it was Tamil Brahmi mainly created with a few more consonants and to suit the Tamil phonology, this phonetic. I don't think it's influence. Yes, down south, if we see some Sri Lankan Brahmi and other, it might be seen in there, not as an Indian subcontinent as a whole. I don't think so. Yeah. Yes, please.
Sir, another question is why did Tamil Brahmi adopt consonants from Brahmi but largely avoid conjuncts? What caused this adaptation or rigidity? Conversely, why weren't many consonants adopted into standard Brahmi from Tamil Brahmi? This question is from Naga.
CD is a very long, this one. And first of all, I would like to admit my area of specialization is in North Indian scripts and its derivatives. So I can put in a very bare outline. I have not gone deeper into the aspects like conjuncts and so many things. Only at the outset, I can say many do appear with the Brahmi, the Mauryan phase, and very in a simple manner, which I earlier also told, to suit the Tamil phonology, they had to infuse like patru, kotram, like L below two dot, R below two dots, this. The conjuncts part, I don't much of it. And I have not gone into much deeper aspects of the calligraphical aspects of the Tamil Brahmi. Thank you.
Sir, and the last question is are there Brahmi inscriptions in Pali language also like Prakrit?
No, the Pali, see there are, but to me, in a broad terms, you can say Pali as a regional, religious. Even Solomon in his book, he suggests very few inscriptions, but most of them are in Prakrit and very few in Pali. Rather, when you go to, when I was discussing some scholars here in Nalanda University, it is more seen in the Sri Lankan region, the Pali. But the basic, thing, what I understand, Prakrit was written for a more secular thing, as we find the inscription. Pali, yes, very few, maybe the like either Mahetu, Buddhist creed, or Dharini. It's all has a religious intonation when we see the Pali as a language. Yes, in India, they say very few. If you read the book by Richard Solomon in his Indian epigraphy, especially the section on the Pali, you can know more about it. Thank you.
So 3 to 4 people have asked if you. I think this would be the last question. If you could provide some book suggestions on inscriptions and scripts.
Inscriptions in?
Scripts.
Yeah, see, definitely. Normally, I advise 6 books, 3 books connected with the Indian epigraphy, which normally consulted by all the students. One is Indian epigraphy by P.C. Sarkar, another Indian epigraphy by Richard Solomon, and Indian epigraphy by Dr. K.V. Ramesh. So these 3 books should be more or less to give you a basic concepts, and they have covered almost all the aspects. Even Richard Solomon has some calligraphical aspects also he has touched upon in his work. As far as calligraphy is concerned, you have to read the G.H. Oja, Bharatiya Prachina Lipimala. This is, it is what was there, I told in the beginning, it is and it will continue as one of the magnificent work as far as calligraphy is concerned. Then comes the work of the C. Sivaramurthy, this Indian inscription and South Indian scripts. So it's a very, very useful book. Then, yes, Ahmadasan Dani, Indian calligraphy is equally book. If these 6 books, 3 books connected with calligraphy, 3 books connected with epigraphy, if you read, you can substantially enhance your knowledge. And calligraphy, yes, is also there. And there are many other articles. In this context, I would like to mention Richard Solomon has given a very, very exhaustive bibliography for in the form of articles in the journals, and many books are there. You may just consult that also to go further in this area. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this enlightening talk. And you began with the historiography, and you have, in so many ways, brought about the multidisciplinarity of paleography and epigraphy, and in the amazing way that you always do. And you talked about the languages, the scripts, Brahmi Kharoshti, the importance of manuscripts, and how you cannot study any of them without the knowledge of an epigraphy and paleography. And you've gone from Ashok to Kshatrap to Kushans, and even highlighting the symbols that are there. You've done it marvelously, and I think we can be nothing but grateful to you for always finding time for our institution. Thank you so much, sir. And you've not just talked about the scripts and the languages, you've also mentioned the mediums, the various mediums that we see, and taken the evolution from Ashokan down to Southeast Asian. And we're eternally grateful, sir. Thank you so much for this talk. There were some people who were asking if you could give us, if you could tell them where they can contact you so
Yeah.
that they can be in touch with you. If
Now, kindly share my WhatsApp number. They are free because I always welcome anybody connected with epigraphy. I always encourage the students and scholars. You may share the number to them and they can contact me for any further details regarding the enhancing their knowledge. Yeah.
I would also like to say to all our audience here that perhaps Mehak, have you mentioned that the first and third Saturdays, or at least the next month, I would say, that we will be giving some really interesting talks which are pertinent also. It's paleography is not just about the past. When you discover you cannot do it without trained uh, learning. One of you saying self-learning, that may help up to a point, but not really. You have to learn in a systematic manner. It is wonderful knowing about your past, and some actually, Dr. Ravi Shankar has so much to share with you, and he did it wonderfully in 1 hour. But they are such fascinating inscriptions.
No,
I
but
think the director of Mysore epigraphy, where you also have an inscription on Kalu Kutta, where Chol king को किसी ने defeat करा, and the person soldier ने इनाम में बस मांगा, king, I just want your Kalu Kutta, and it's all about the exploits. So whether you have this great love for your dogs and all sort of animal activism, cock fights, inscriptions cover a wonderful variety. ये तो Dr. Ravi Shankar can speak for so many hours, but we cannot pay him that much. So,
your
but
love and affection is more than enough. What
no,
and I'm grateful to you always. You are
no,
encouraging, and
no.
that's
So,
enough. We cannot measure in terms of monetary things. No, not at all.
no, but he is a very busy man, actually. He has to go and give another lecture. I somehow trapped him in today to agree. So
Uh,
we will be having some more lectures on different
yeah,
aspects.
I've shared the email also. I hear.
Absolutely. Please do. Maybe on Sufism, inscriptions, so many other aspects. Please be in touch. The first Saturday and the third Saturday, we'll announce a time. And probably on around 18th to 21st, we may even do a workshop or an outreach. So if you remain in touch with also Mehek, you will be in touch with the department so that you know the activities. So thank you, Dr. Ravi Shankar, so much, so
Thank you.
much. And I only can bless Mehek. And
Yeah.
I have
Always.
all the good wishes for all our audience over here, who I can see are so full of passion that they really need to know. Their curiosity is insatiable. So thank you so much. All the best wishes on the World Heritage Day. And I again want to reiterate our thanks to our Vice Chancellor, Dr. Sachidanand Joshi, on whose initiative we started this. Thank you so much.
That's it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you
Thank
so much.
you. Thank
Okay.
you,
Bye.
Kisha Marthas. Bye.